Hi, my name is Skylar Weatherford, and this is my persuasive speech for why we shouldn't do away with penny coins as a currency. People who favor keeping the penny coin believe it plays a very important role in keeping down the cost of goods and services in each of our everyday lives. Can you imagine if penny coins were no longer allowed as currency, and that every item we buy at stores would be rounded up to the nearest nickel? We would be paying more for something that costs less. To help you understand, here's a possible example. Consumers like you and I would end up paying 75 cents for something that only costs 71 cents. There's a 4-cent increase possible for every separate purchase. I can't imagine that could add up to be thousands of dollars in a lifetime. Look around at each of us here. Don't you wonder how much that would be for just our class alone? We're a small class considering most other schools, yet we can make a great difference, just like this penny. If you're like me, there's been many times I've purchased something and have had to use a penny or pennies to pay the total amount. For example, just think of all the times you've gone to buy a cheeseburger at a fast food restaurant or anything at a store. Sometimes when we go to check out, the total amount isn't always a multiple of 5, so we have to pay with some pennies or get some back. Some people say that eliminating penny coins would be the probable result in ending all prices ending in 0 or 5. This would probably create a 1-cent sales tax. In 2012, a couple of Chipotle Mexican restaurants experimented with transactions by rounding all the transactions to the nearest nickel. Customers that had extra money added to their bills complained. Of course they did. Wouldn't you? Eventually, all the stores ended up rounding the bills down. Just imagine if there were no pennies. What would we do? We would have to replace them with more nickels, which are bigger and heavier to replace, and that would result in higher mint expenses because nickels cost more to make than their face value, which is about 7 cents and increasing. That just doesn't make good sense. So the United States government would lose even more money on each nickel that is produced. There are a lot of people who support pennies. The organization Americans for Common Sense has conducted polls all across America showing over 2/3 of Americans are in favor of keeping the penny. Penny supporters also claim that eliminating the penny could harm the economy, such as hampering charities as they do their fundraising events. Back in 2017, an article about an elementary school raising money for the Red Cross called Pennies for a Purpose, Vicki LaBelle, executive director of American Red Cross, said that for the Red Cross, every penny makes a difference when helping community members in need. Have you ever used the penny? This little guy here is a penny. Well, of course you have. Pennies have been a big part of our lives ever since we were born. One of my most favorite things to do is collect pennies. I've collected almost 80 pressed pennies all across the United States of America. It's fun and challenging. My collection of pennies range from California to Florida and all the way up to Pennsylvania and back down to Texas. Each design and printed on them is by a special coin embossing machine and is unique to that location. One of the main reasons why I personally would like to keep pennies in productions as coin of value is so I can keep collecting pressed ones like these, along with a huge group of others I know who likes to collect pennies as well. Pennies help avoid an increase in prices that would hurt low-income households the most. To do away with them as currency, it would especially hurt Oklahoma, because we are considered a low-income state. The poverty rate in Oklahoma is 16.2%. 1 out of every 6.2 residents in Oklahoma lives in poverty. How many total people in Oklahoma live in poverty? 612,714 out of almost 4 million residents reported income levels below the poverty line in the last year. So there are a lot of pennies being used by our fellow residents in Oklahoma. Let's continue to use the pennies because they help keep costs low which is favorable for all Oklahoma since we are a low-income state. Here are a few interesting things I found about pennies that may help you appreciate them more. The first penny was introduced in 1872, the Indian head penny. It is very scarce and can be found in most coin shows and in different conditions. Their value depends on which type of condition they are in. The original coins were a bright red copper color, and they were originally replaced with the 1909 Indian head penny, which was replaced by the Lincoln cent piece, which we now have today. Lincoln was the first president to be put on a coin as a historical note. The original Wheatstock penny states E pluribus unum, which means one out of many. The rarest penny in the world came from the Denver Mint, dated in 1943, and it's made out of bronze, and it's worth almost $2 million. Wouldn't you like to find another one of those? I know I sure would. Another interesting fact about pennies is, did you know that a 50-50 chance or a half chance of heads tails? Well, actually, it turns out the penny with the Lincoln Memorial on the back lands tail side up about 80% of the time. The reason is the Lincoln head side is a bit heavier than the Memorial backside. The spinning ratio works best on a clean, new coin. Have you ever come across a white penny? They were called white cents. They didn't look like pennies at all, and they were known as the Flying Eagle coins because they were made from metal that contains mostly copper and about 12 parts nickel, which gave them that rare, unique white color. There's so many wonderful things about pennies and how they've been a historical part of our American heritage, along with all benefits of helping avoid increased prices that hurt our low-income families, especially here in Oklahoma. So I believe that we should give pennies a second chance, and we should keep them around for a long time. Pennies may be small, but just remember, just like us, pennies and we can make a big difference. That is my persuasive speech on why we shouldn't do away with penny coins as a currency. Just remember, every cent counts.